Being an educator is one heck of a lonely journey, but every step holds a story, an experience that shapes how we teach, learn, and grow. Welcome to the Educator Experience. I'm your host, Salli Carter, and together we'll explore the moments that define us as educators. Through authentic conversations and shared experiences, we're building a community that connects, reflects, and inspires, all while breaking down barriers in education, one story at a time. You are not alone. Let's grow together. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Educator Experience podcast. I am your host, Salli Carter, and this is the space where I sit down with educators from across Canada and across the world to chat about impactful moments in their teaching careers. How cool, right? Because sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes teaching can feel a bit isolating, a little bit lonely. And I think that by sharing our experiences, it'll really help bring us together, break down barriers, all that good stuff. So today I have the esteemed pleasure of sitting down with Dr. TJ Hoogsteen. He's got 18 years of experience in education. He's served multiple roles, including classroom teacher, instructional coach, interventionist, vice principal, and principal. His passion for teaching extends to the university level, where he's been a sessional instructor in the graduate programs at the University of New Brunswick, Arizona State University, as well as Yorkville University, where I have taken courses in adult education, and it's great. His focus is on teaching graduate students about the importance of teacher and school leader well-being. In this episode, we talk about the idea of collective efficacy, educator wellness, and peer learning communities, and how we as educators are not just here to survive, but to thrive, and that we cannot get there alone. TJ's research is all about educator wellness, so watch out for his upcoming blog series where he dives into specific practical strategies that us educators can immediately apply to ourselves and our practice to really shift from surviving to thriving. So if you've been enjoying these conversations and feeling all the love and connection that we're really shooting and aiming for, I respectfully invite you to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, because each of those 5 stars helps us get these incredible stories and conversations further out into internet world and internet land and helps even more people. Also, if you sign up for our newsletter through our website, you'll be notified of TJ's upcoming articles, which obviously you won't want to miss. Super important stuff, right? So let's get to it with Dr. TJ Hoogsteen. TJ, welcome. I'm really excited to be chatting with you today. I happen to know that you are passionate about educator wellness. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and your journey?
It started while I was doing my doctoral work. And so back in 2018, got onto this idea of collective efficacy. And at the time it was thought of as the magic bullet in education. And I didn't agree. I didn't agree with it. I published 3 different articles on it over the next 3 years, really challenged those ideas of, collective efficacy being this silver bullet to save schools.
Can you explain collective efficacy?
So collective efficacy is the belief that as a group, teachers can impact student achievement.
Okay.
And it's a group belief, but it has been treated as this, if you develop these beliefs, then these great things will happen. And I really challenged the reverse side. It was like, it's not about the beliefs. It's about doing the things to get you there. Or, collaborating with other educators, and you're working with your students, and you're doing all the things that we know are best for kids and schools. Once you're doing those things, the beliefs come. And I almost took a standoffish approach to it. And I don't know if that was a good thing. It was part of my own personal growth and personal development in that sense. And then, years later, different events happen in life, right? And I go through a job loss and divorce. And, I have to really kind of go through my own growth. But at the same time, I never really stopped writing, and I never stopped researching. And eventually COVID happens, and we start seeing teacher burnout, teacher mental well-being, student well-being, all those things hit the forefront. It's not that they weren't there before. It's just that they became a focal point. I took some of those ideas around efficacy and started looking at teacher resilience and really found that there is a huge link. This is where self-efficacy comes from. Same thing. It's just, very similar to collective efficacy in that it's a teacher's belief that they can have an impact on outcomes. And there is a huge link between self-efficacy and resilience and well-being. So really what I started to look at was how do we build the self-efficacy in teachers so that they have that resilience and that link to well-being. As I mentioned, I think when I started with the collective efficacy work, I approached it from a standoffish point of view. Years later, I had worked on an article that focused mostly on what are known as affective states, which is one of the four sources of efficacy. I approached it from that challenging view, but it was from a point that instead of saying our emotional states are the least important, I approached it from this idea that it's the most important because we bring these things with us every single day, and our the emotional states that we bring to teaching, the way we feel about teaching, the way we feel about the work that we do translates into everything else that we do.
You bring such a unique perspective in terms of you're involved in administration. So you are working with educators from an administrator level, but also as colleagues as well. What are you noticing in terms of educator well-being?
One of the big things is just a greater sense of lack of control. At times, I find when teachers are not doing the best, they've given up in a lot of ways and said, like, I can't control this and I can't do this, all of these things, whether it's just greater demands, different paperwork grading, new initiatives, because every couple of years it's like, we're doing this now. It's always one new thing.
That is literally it. You think you just are getting a handle on your classes, your profession, and it's something more, or even just AI, right? That adds an entirely
Mhm.
new workload on
Yeah,
educators to understand, to navigate, to mitigate. Yeah. Incorporate.
yeah, yeah, and so it creates a sense of almost like a hopelessness and or a disheartened profession. A lot of times we think, well, we need more money. Money's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to keep people. From my own work with people, it's always about supporting them. Yes, I know it's one more thing. Even when I talk to grad students that I work with, one of the big courses that I teach is supervision of instruction. And that idea of supervision is scary because people think, oh, somebody's evaluating me and somebody is going to tell me I'm doing everything wrong. And most people either have no experience with supervision because nobody comes to check on them, or they have people who've never given them anything positive. And so when I talk about supervision of instruction, I talk about it from the sense of support. And it's like anytime when you're bringing something new, you have to understand where they're coming from and being able to work them and support them. And it is really about supporting each person as an individual, and then also create a culture in a school setting where you're working together and working towards those things. A big part of resilience is that, right, is you're not alone. We often think of resilience as a single person thing, but really our resilience really depends on how well resourced we are as individuals in terms of our relationships. And so making sure that your people are taken care of in that sense and that they have other people to go to is super important. So that's how I deal with it in my own setting. And that's also what I try to teach people at the grad level too. 40% of teachers in their first 5 years leave.
So why is
Um,
that? Let's talk
right.
about that. I have
Okay.
a feeling you
So
know.
I have an idea.
Okay, what are your
I have an
thoughts,
idea.
please?
And so I mentioned this at the supervision piece. It's like sometimes people have never had anybody drop in. What happens is teachers come in, maybe they have a little bit of substitute experience. Maybe they've done some contracts. Maybe they're brand new, just out of teachers college or out of their university degree. And the principal says, okay, you're teaching grade 3. And that teacher's like, yes, I'm really excited. I am going to change the world. And all of a sudden, 1 month in, that 26-year-old teacher looks like they're 48, 46, right? Because their world just got turned upside down. But what has happened is that principal or the school leader believed that that teacher was able to learn more on their own than that
Okay.
they actually could, right? They don't know what they're doing well because they don't have that mastery. Mastery is the ability to say, like,
Mhm.
I've done this and be able to reflect on it and say, this is what went well. Young teachers don't have that ability. So they need somebody to come in and tell them.
Or show them how the art of reflection on oneself to become more capable.
Yes, they just need somebody to say, hey,
Got
you
it.
did this well. Or it was really good,
Uh,
but try this. Just giving them some feedback can support them in that rather than just leaving people to their own devices and saying, I'll come and check on you in 6 months.
I feel like you're speaking my language here because it's the exact same. I feel like it's even more so like that at post-secondary because there is even more trust that that person is bringing their specific skill set. You may be an expert marketer, but now you're trying to manage a class. You don't know if you're saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, and there's nobody guiding you, providing that feedback. And I've talked to numerous post secondary educators who've left because it's an incredibly overwhelming experience without any guidance or feedback or support, right? And they just don't expect the amount of time that's involved to get to a decent place, and that'll take a few years. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I talk to even intern teachers, I said, I'm not trying to scare you, but do you know what you're getting into? And then kind of lead the conversation there. Hey, what do you expect is going to happen? And then I just try to say, like, you might not be good at this right away. And I guess part of the problem of those teachers leaving before 5 years is they never reach expert level.
Yeah.
We know that teachers will get better for at least 10 years and they can keep getting better for their whole entire career. The flip side of that is you can't fire your way to a better profession either. So if you have these teachers that are not doing good in their first 5 years, you can't just say, well, you're not doing good, get out of here. You have to develop the people that you have. And as you said, like, you don't know what you don't know. Nobody's coming in to give you that feedback. And K to 12, the common term is like professional learning communities. And you're working with groups of other teachers that know that have been there and done that and had that experience. And um, those things build relationships, and it's those relationships and that builds resilience and keeps people well in their job. I think sometimes people think it's our job to make us well, and it isn't, right? As leaders, it's our job to support, to create the conditions where people can thrive and be well in their job. But ultimately, it's up to individuals to ensure that, like, hey, I'm taking part in these things and I'm doing these things to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm well and making sure that I'm bringing my best every day.
Let me share an example. I mean, I do a lot of contract work for different places, and my experience is that I'm hired, and because people know that I have a few years under my belt, or maybe it would be the exact same even if I was brand new, but they just leave me. Like I've been hired places, no one's ever reached out to me, checked on me, asked me if I needed anything or anything, and I'm like, wow. This is crazy. I've noticed in post-secondary, there is a general lack of support, and community there, which can help create a thriving situation and build that self-efficacy that you're talking about. Yeah. Like I've just been left to my own devices. What if I suck? Maybe I do. No one's told me. Like I don't know.
And the problem with that idea of, hey, if there's a problem, reach out, is that people don't want to look like
Yeah.
that they're incompetent. If they're not confident in themselves, they won't
Right.
reach out for support in a lot of ways. As you mentioned, you've done this a lot. You get hired by different places and you get thrown into a new situation. Anytime you're thrown into a new situation, you're automatically a little bit
Totally.
de-skilled and you have to relearn. One of the ways that we overcome that de-skilling is by learning the context. That's why relationships is such a big part of knowing those things, because you get to ask questions and you get to learn from other people.
So you mentioned peer learning communities. Can you tell me more about that or other positive things that you have seen implemented at institutions that work well to build this community and connection?
So when we look at that learning communities, what it is usually it's just a group of teachers, could be close to grade levels. In a big school, you might see all the grade 2 teachers work together, all the grade 3s. In a rural school, it might be like grades 1 to 3, grades 4 to 6, and they work together. And a lot of times it's connected to some sort of school goal. And so it could be the whole science of reading is big. So we need to learn about, practices around that. And so they're going to go back and they're going to try it in their classroom. And then they come back and they share it in that community and they try to learn from each other. And these communities may also be something like observation. So
Mhm.
they watch other teachers teach. and then they're able to discuss what they see, and those types of things build those relationships. Those are popular in school. They're not always implemented well because it becomes, oh, there's not time for
Right.
this. The same thing with mentoring programs. There's a lot of great research that shows mentoring is good, especially for those young teachers. It doesn't always happen at a formal level. I guess the positives of them have always been really sold. It's really hard to get people to implement them correctly and to implement them consistently. So that's where the challenge always lies.
That makes sense for sure. I'm just thinking back to some of the situations that I've seen in institutions, and I've gone to meetings or workshops where there have been guest speakers, which is nice. But I think a lot of spaces lose sight of we all are bringing our experiences to the table and holding the space for maybe a topic of conversation of that week or of that month, and each educator sharing their experience and learning and hearing, as opposed to watching what I've seen implemented as a regular guest speaker or something. Don't get me wrong, guest speakers are great, but I want to hear about how my colleagues are handling certain situations. That's worked well for me in the past. And we do that. I work with some masterminds, implement some masterminds in my business community. And that's the style that I tend to gravitate towards, the sharing of experiences, right? And that goes along with self efficacy in terms of adult learning theory, too,
Yes, it definitely does. One of the biggest complaints that I see in professional development, professional learning in schools is that this idea that it's just these
right?
one-off guest speakers, or these guest speakers don't really matter to their own practice, and they would rather
Right.
learn from their colleagues, right? Those type of communities where you can share experience, shared practices are super important. And at the graduate level, when I teach, is that I always run these weekly seminars because they're online. It's how I teach. I give a couple different options. One is like a discussion forum, but one is also like a platform like this. We do Zoom meetings, and we take our question for the week and our topic, usually based on some sort of reading. And I always try to make the questions and the prompts tied to their own experience. I just try to act as a moderator of the discussion and allow the students to speak and learn from each other. The students, I think, really appreciate that. And I think it develops a sense of community when online learning can be quite impersonal, but it also allows other people, like you said, to learn from each other and across different experiences and across different parts of the country, even different parts of the world.
TJ, in our prior communications, you had said there was something that had significantly impacted you about thriving. Why do we have to thrive? Now, a student said that to you. Is that correct? Why do we have to
Yes.
thrive? What's the meaning behind that? Why is that so important to you?
In my own journey, I did my master's online, did my doctorate kind of back to back
Oof.
between 2012 and 2008. At the same time, I was the primary parent of a very young child. He was between the ages of 2 and 8 at that time. I was by myself most of the time, working full time. I'm sure of it, that I walked into school some mornings and people were like, "What is this guy? Is he serious right now? Like, you're supposed to be the vice principal. What is wrong with you? Like, you don't look like you even slept. Like, what
You
is
you
your
need
deal?"
about 8 years of
But
sleep, TJ, then come
yeah,
back.
right. And so, I did all those things and
Mhm.
I made it. Like, I did it and I made it. Oh, at no point was I thriving. And now I work a full time job, and I work an extra 25 to 30 hours a week online. But I feel like I handle it a whole lot better, and I do thrive. My goal is for all my graduate students, especially with this one course that I teach, is to really bring this idea of well-being into their lives. And I think most students really get it. But this one student, he said, "Why do we have to thrive?" My own idea is you are not supposed to suffer. You're not supposed to just flounder in your role. Not everything goes perfect, but you're not supposed to be beaten down by it.
I appreciate that in my classes in the first few weeks is share that my personal academic journey has been anything but linear. I failed out of university When I was 19, I got an A plus in parting. I would happen to be very good at it. Very good. Thank God there was a Snapchat back in my day, I'll tell you that much. But, like, I make a story out of it. I went back to school, close to being 40, just finished my master's. Regardless of where they're at now, they can always come back, or even if they aren't thriving or in a space, they can still make it through. There are just so many different options. This isn't always the be all end all, this course, if they don't get an A plus or whatever. There's so much pressure to thrive and to be at our best, right? There are significant family challenges that I've navigated while I was in school recently and working and all this type of stuff. And there were courses that I did not thrive in. I'm just like, okay, I made it through. Do I remember much of it? No, but I did what I needed to do as an adult, to make it through and kept moving forward, right? So I think even just sharing these moments with our students and making it real, right? Um, yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
important. Not every moment's worth thriving, that's for sure, as educators, students, or humans. But the goal is to be okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. This course that this happened in, I talk about these basic principles of this inventory of thriving, and there's different ways of thriving. So connecting, enjoying, achieving, balancing, engaging, and being. And most people, I think, will always put that achieving, like, oh, I'm thriving if I'm achieving. And I have to have a balance between things. Tell people this particular course is not about achieving. It isn't. Instead of I need to pass this course and I need to get an A plus at the top of my list. How about we put connecting and
I like that.
engaging with these as our big things, and that's where I start from and said that's how I've designed this course.
Thank you for sharing that because it really aligns with how I treat my classroom as well. Yeah, I'm promoting connection because I share that in my experience, what has meant the most to me years after my education are the relationships. And being a business person, relationships are important. You never know if you're going to meet your business partner in this class, if you're going to meet maybe the love of your life, your best friend, someone who you can support or help in some sort of way. There's so much more than that achieving aspect. So I force cheesy little icebreakers. I facilitate. How about that? I facilitate um, friendly rapport building in classrooms. So people can start to build connections beyond achievement because it's just a course. What else can you get from this
Yeah.
experience, educational experience, other than this grade? Yeah.
I try to put those principles at the front in my day-to-day work. Schools are data driven. We all have to have school goals. 100% of students need to be reading at grade level by this time of year. And if teachers base your well-being on the performance of a grade 3 student, you're in trouble. Like, there's so many factors on it. Like, really, right? There's so many factors that go into how that student's going to perform every day or during the day of the test or whatever it is. So I always tell people, yes, we have these goals. Let's set them. We set these goals at the beginning of the year. We're going to come back to them. We are going to work together and we are going to do the work every day. And if we get there, we get there. Nobody's ever lost their job because we didn't get 100% of students. Like, this isn't high stakes private schools. Is achievement important? Yes. It's absolutely important for the future of these students, and that's what we work for.
There are different ways to get there.
But
Yeah.
yes, yes, I never forget that, of course. But at the same time, when I work with students, we always say, "Oh, the students are the forefront of the work." For the teachers, it is. For me, I need to make sure that they're well before so they can do their job for the kids. Right? We're going to connect. We're going to do the work. We're going to engage in this work together, and we're going to support each other in this work. The kids will get there.
I love
And
this. This is so powerful. Thank you. So TJ, as we start to wind down this wonderful conversation about educator well-being and self-efficacy, what would be a piece of advice that you could share with new educators?
I would say seek out
I love this.
mentors. Yes, you want to change the lives of these kids, but know that it's going to that it's going to take time. You may never see the growth that those kids have, especially your kindergarten teacher. You trying to get little Johnny who can't even tie his shoes. You might never see him 12 years later graduating, but know that you're making that impact, right? And just, I think, celebrate the small things, celebrate day to day. Long term, you might not see it, but celebrate those small things each day. Try to find something to celebrate. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback. And then most of all, it's not our job to make us well. And well-being is not something you do after work. You have to take the time during the day to make sure that you're checking in with yourself. And what are those things that you need to do? Whether it's, hey, I need to go outside at recess time to get the sunlight, right? I need my sunlight. Don't doom scroll during recess because that makes things worse. Those kind of things. It's easy to go for those quick dopamine hits, whether it's like reaching for the donut in there, right?
No, donuts? What?
You know,
What?
donuts in the staff room, always a thing in the teachers, right? Not saying never do it, but those small quick fixes. Take a look at how do you take care of yourself during the day, not just after work or just on the weekend. If you're trying to take care of yourself on Saturday and Sunday and not during the week, you're always playing catch up. And so we should be well at when we're at work as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your time, your space, your energy, and your thoughts. Thank you so much, TJ. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. So.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Educator Experience. We hope you're walking away feeling connected, inspired, and just a little bit more supported on your journey. Ready to go a little bit deeper? Join the Educator Experiences community and check out our courses and workshops specifically designed to support new educators as they navigate the ups, downs, and everything in between. You'll find it all at educatorexperiences.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a fellow educator and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Together, we're building a vibrant community rooted in support and connection. See y'all next Monday.